Welcome to an edition of Boxing Info. I'm your host, the Islander, and this is basically a preview show. Thinking back, it's been more than a week since I've done a program, and as I'm looking out, there's one big fight on tap tomorrow that I want to cover and also go over some news. It's early morning, and I've got like tons of papers all over my desk. Basically, a couple little things in the news. Not many of you mentioned this, but Fernando Vargas is planning a comeback, and now it's been put on hold because he's got some type of a illness. Couple other things in the news. The Adamak McBride fight's been moved up 2 weeks to April 9th, not to interfere with Easter. And I don't know if there's anything else really that was newsworthy since the last time I did a show. But the big fight on tap this weekend is the WBC WBO Bantamweight Championship of the World between defending unified champion Fernando Montiel of Mexico and former IBF flyweight champion Montiel Donaire. We haven't talked about this much on channel comments and other things, but this is like one of the best little fights that could be made, and suffering from some type of a sinus infection or something. But with that said, we also it's one of the most anticipated fights in the lower weight classes in many years. How do I see this going? I'll start off by telling you that either guy can win the fight. It's just that simple. But most likely what is going to happen is Donaire is probably going to win the fight. I think he is the better athlete of the two. A little more elaborate and a little more dynamic than Montiel. Montiel is very solid. He's faced the better competition. Not that he's beaten the best fighters he's fought. I mean, well, he sort of has. But, you know, his drawbacks against Mark Too Sharp Johnson, when he was just a little bit too inexperienced, and Johnson had too much experience for him, and that fight with Johnny Gonzalez with the H, really left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths with him, because there were high expectations of this guy. He has bloomed as of late, with me starting with that Martin Castillo fight, where I thought that fight could go either way, and he blew Castillo away, basically put him into retirement, in a fight that, on the undercard of Kelly Pavlik, Jermaine Taylor 2, that was really to me, his coming out party. And he continued this up into the bantamweight division, and the thing about him is, Montiel, is that he's willing to fight all over the world. He's fought his last fight against Hasegawa in Japan. He's fought in the Philippines once or twice. He's a world traveler. He has a chance in this fight. I doubt it is outboxing Donaire. His chance comes in finding what I call the middle ground. This is both guys at a distance. This is both guys on top of each other. Obviously, Donaire does not want this scenario. He wants this scenario. Montiel needs the middle ground. It's when he's coming in or Donaire is about to strike and get away, that's Montiel's chance, a counter-punching chance. Both of them are sort of counter-punchers, but, Donaire, I think, has more, as I said earlier, is a little more dynamic. I don't have a good feel for this fight. If I was gambling on it, what I would tell you is, I would think that if the odds makers have made Donaire the favorite for a reason. He's younger. Like I said before, he's more athletic. His game is more dynamic. It's multifaceted. Montiel carries the experience factor. He's not going to get flustered like some of the other guys that Donaire has faced. He's not going to come in wild like Victor Archinian did and get caught. That's not Montiel. He is very solid and compact. He doesn't make big mistakes. And sometimes that leads to bad fights, like the one against Johnny Gonzalez and the one against Mark Too Sharp Johnson, because he's not willing to take a risk that is needed to be taken. You know, when he beat Hasegawa, Hasegawa was winning that fight through 4 rounds and got careless and got caught with a left hook, something you very rarely see a southpaw fighter get caught with going against a conventional fighter, especially a very slick boxing southpaw like Hasegawa. So that tells you 2 things. One, Montiel can find a way, because have you ever seen Pernell Whitaker or Hector Macho Camacho or Manny Pacquiao get hit hard with a left hook to the head? You know, they're usually generally eating right hands. Very rare that a southpaw gets a really good southpaw like Hasegawa gets kabonged by a left hook, and he did. And Montiel found the opening. Donaire, you know, more the conventional style, but still has the same type of, I think, height and reach advantages that Hasegawa enjoyed. Also looks like he is made more for this weight than Montiel. Montiel is maxed out. And if I'm thinking back in history, and you guys can correct me, because Donaire reminds me more of his frame and his size of somebody like Jeff Chandler, who is definitely very taller, suited to fight at higher weights. Montiel and his physique reminds me a lot more of Lupe Pintor, although I think that he's more dynamic in his punching ability as far as throwing straighter combinations and things like that. So I guess what I'm saying is I expect Donaire to win this fight, either by a decision, you know, whether it's contentious or comfortable, possibly by a stoppage on cuts or a stoppage, you know, of some other sort. But I really think that the later the fight goes on, the more of an advantage Montiel has. Montiel takes time to study his opponents, and he needs this time to figure out Donaire, to figure out the what I call the shipping lanes, and what that is managing the distance. From rounds 5 on is, in my gut, Montiel's best chance to win the fight, because if Donaire is to win a decision, I've got the feeling that he is basically going to be, I wouldn't say hanging on, maybe coasting to a decision as Montiel is picking up steam. The same kind of way Johnny Gonzalez won a decision over Montiel, where Montiel was picking up steam as the fight went on. Both were overly cautious of each other's power, as well this fight could be. Don't expect this to be a monster high contact fight. I'm not expecting that. I could be wrong. I'm expecting this to be more of a chess match, and I don't want many of you being disappointed if it is, because you know, both guys have to respect each other's power. Montiel has been pretty solid with the chin. He's been down a couple of times, but he's been, you know, pretty solid thus far in his career. Donaire, I don't think his chin's really been checked very well, and if he gets caught coming in open, like he, you know, he was basically leaving openings that I could see against Sidorenko in his last fight, even though he won that fight in spectacular fashion. He's going to get caught. And the question in this fight is, what happens when Montiel catches Donaire? I know that Donaire is going to be able to tag Montiel, you know, not at will, but on occasion. What happens when Donaire has to taste Montiel's power? That's really the question. If the fight goes the whole way without that ever happening, Donaire is going to cruise to a decision. If it happens and nothing, if Montiel catches Donaire with a good shot and nothing happens, it could be a one-way street to either a stoppage or to, you know, like I said, a clear-cut decision. As always, you guys are free to dispute what I say or enhance what I say. I personally think if the fight ends in a stoppage, Montiel's best chance of winning this fight is by a knockout. And I really think that those chances rest between rounds 5 and 11, 5 and 10. Because if the fight gets past 10th round, I believe Donaire is going to be able to cruise to a decision or hold on for a decision. Montiel's best chances are between rounds 5 and 10. Donaire, like I said, it all depends on how he is able to take Montiel's power. If he can't take his power and he goes into retreat mode, that's Montiel's only chance of winning a decision. Otherwise, like I said, Donaire by decision, clear cut, or even a contentious decision, or Montiel by a stoppage between rounds 5 and 10. That's going to do it for this show. We'll be back hopefully next week with a recap. Also, one piece of news, I just read Golden Boy won the purse bid for the Pascal Hopkins rematch, which hopefully means the fight will be in Las Vegas or someplace where we can get, you know, I guess non-biased judging. Not that we get it in Las Vegas anyway, but I still think Hopkins won the first fight. That's going to do it for this episode of Boxing Info. Stay with me, everybody.